Welcome to the Prime People Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Konikow, and in today's episode, we are going to teach you how to start a podcast. You're going to know start to finish where Matt Campoli from the Price to Sell podcast got inspired for the podcast, where he even started. We're going to talk about the technology. How does he manage everything? How does he do the pre-show launch, the actual show structure, and what does he do post-show to capitalize on it? And I got to spend time on his podcast. So the cool thing is I have some insights into his journey, and it's a lot simpler than you might think. So stick around. This is going to be a fun one. Definitely grab a pen and paper. And if you're on the live stream, this is a great opportunity for you. So we are going to do two things. One, if you're on the live stream on YouTube, you can actually let us know who you are, where you're from, and I'll actually allow you to ask a question. I'll ask it to him live and let him answer it. Or if you want to go one step further, join us on the Practical and Tactical group on Facebook. We'll actually drop the StreamYard link in that private group, and you can come on the show yourself and meet him face to face. It's a great way to expose your brand to the world. And I'm going to dig into Matt's brand and what his podcast is doing for him and all that fun stuff. But let's not waste any more time. Matthew Campoli, how are you, brother?
Good. How are you?
I'm pumped up. If you can't tell, I haven't even drank my coffee yet. So imagine that.
Well, I'm almost done mine. So
that's exciting. I like the backdrop. Where are you? So are you not in studio today, or you're not working from home, or where are you at?
It's my home office.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's just get right into it. We're going to dig into some of your backstory later on, but how did you even get started with the Price to Sell podcast?
So I had another podcast. I had experience podcasting through my other podcast called The Simple Podcast. It's still out there. I still hop on there. I'm one of 3 hosts. That's a little more entrepreneurial based generally in the city. And then my partners on Price to Sell, shout out to Ernesto and Anthony of the Neighborhood Creative team. They reached out to me and they're like, Matt, we want to start a real estate podcast. We want you to be the guy.
Interesting.
And at the time I was like, this was last year, swamp man, like everything on the go. Like I was trying to, I don't have an assistant yet. I was trying to manage my time better. So this opportunity came. I'm like, okay, this is going against everything I'm trying to do right now.
I need more time, not another show, right?
But I'm like, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. And I'm like, I'm all in. Let's do it. I'll make it work. And that's the best thing I've done for my career.
Well, I think the simplicity, and shout out to Neighborhood Creative. I've been following those guys. I've connected with a bunch of them on the back end. Like, I get inspired by people that are practitioners. And Neighborhood Creative, if people don't know who they are, give them some context. Like, who are they? What do they do primarily?
A lot of people ask this question, and I can't even answer this still. But they do everything. They're a full marketing agency, full service. And they know how to work the social media space. They know how to build branding. They're just marketing geniuses that run, like, if you want to use them for your own marketing, you want to go build a brand with them, you can do it. You want to build a website with them, you can do it. All the basic necessities that you would inquire from a marketing agency, they have it. But they're more than just that. The way their brains operate from a marketing perspective is just genius. And that's how I built my relationship with them first and foremost, was our minds coming together as a collective and just brainstorming ideas all the time. And that's why we became very close friends. So with them, they're more family first. And I'd say, business partners second. But yeah, they do it all. And they saw there was an opportunity in the podcasting world, and they started their own. It's called Money Buys Happiness. Currently doing extremely well.
It's killing it. Like extreme, you're like, oh, it's doing kind of well. Like, I mean, give context. You know the metrics behind that. Like, how well is it doing?
Shout out. This is a big day for them. They're actually signing with Full Send. And
wow. Yeah, the Nelk boys were just in London, actually. My buddy Kirk, he had them down at their spot, and I was like, look who's here. And I'm like, yeah, I made the connection between you guys, right? So
yeah, so they're in LA right now signing with them. So
wow.
they're but that's just what they've been able to do, and they're achieving all their goals and dreams right now. So kudos to them. I'm happy to be partners with them on Price to Sell.
Cool. Yeah. So the dynamics of that, like, let's talk to the average agent out there that understands podcasting matters. I'm doing an episode of a podcast right now, Prime People. And, I know what it's done for my business and my brand. What has it done for yours? Like, I guess, what do you know now that you didn't know before you started, and how has it affected your business?
I mean, just generally speaking, from my personal standpoint, it's confidence for me. I started this business with no business background, no real estate experience, nothing. And I had to go through a lot of, break through a lot of barriers in terms of my belief systems. And just being on this podcast has created this credibility for me, which, and I realized like, okay, I'm pretty good at this business, like I do know a thing or two. And that has just launched me in my own business, carrying that confidence forward. And, but yeah, like that was a question, right?
It was, yeah, it was really, that's a great answer too, because I think sometimes, especially when we're new at something, we think, the people that are at the top are they're these magical beings that we can never be, right? NHL stars, actors, people in our business. And then you get around them and you realize you hear the same through lines in all their businesses, right? Consistency, showing up on time, having goals and a vision, getting around the right people, what you discussed, finding family that you want to roll with and have the same mentality, mindset. Really opens up a whole world of opportunity for now actual business connection wise and deals. Like, are people calling you to list their houses because they know you have the podcast, or how is that? Is there any transition between the podcast and your actual real estate business?
Yeah, just from business. Yeah, I've done deals through the podcast. I've had people reach out. Hey Matt, I've seen you on this podcast. I'd love for you to come list my house. Like, I have the job like that, which is pretty cool to hear. And in terms of, it is attached to my marketing plan. It is attached to my listing package now. It is an extra piece of added value. For sure. Right. So,
well, you can tell them, like, if they're wondering, can you bring out a ton of agents, be like, I Justin Konikow, I got Salerno, I got Jazz. Like, you can go down the roster and be like, I got the best people in the nation. Yeah, for sure. I got exposure. Right?
And I've told you this, and I know you're like this too. We're all like this, majority of us, but collaboration is huge. Like, and I've heard this I've kept this term with me for a while now, but it's co-opetition, not competition with us.
Co-opetition. I like that.
Yeah. And I heard that on another podcast. It's not my original. So I will give
whose podcast. We'll be collaborative and send them over.
I forgot where it was from, but yeah, like that is literally what I say. I said, listen, I have the luxury of connecting with the best in the business they're more than just acquaintances to me now. They're friends. We've hit it off. I have amazing relationships with them. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to go and bring your house, your listing to them and expose it to them and all their networks. So, having that leverage, having that value, it's an amazing tool to have in the shed.
Well, it's real. Cause I remember the day after I did your podcast, you texted me, we hopped on a call. We started talking shop connection you had. They were looking for, I think, a $3 or $4 million acquisition here. We had some stuff off market, connected him with my commercial team. Like, this is how those relationships truly develop. Right. And I think I said this live on your podcast. I checked you out with Jazz before I went on your podcast, because proximity to real people that are authentic is important to me. And you got the cosign from Jazz, and that kind of led to just moving and shaking in a different way. And I think the cool thing about you is how you approach your guests. Like, I experienced it, and I get asked to do a lot of podcasts, but when I got asked to do yours, there was no sense of you calling me because you really needed something. It was more out of curiosity. And the questions you asked on your podcast were really good questions. And you were digging into the operations, the structure. Like, you were genuinely curious. I guess, how did you transition to that though? So you came up with the concept of the podcast, you linked up with Neighborhood Creative. Like, how did you even begin to think about, these are the types of guests I'm going to book, and these are the questions I'm going to ask? Like, how did you do that, not having done a real estate specific podcast before?
Very clean slate when I started, no idea. Mm-hmm. I didn't have an expectation either. I just kind of rolled with it. I brought in a couple friends in the business first, just to warm it up, crack some jokes. But it was more so just being very observant and listening to what I was getting and the feedback I was receiving. I was just staying very conscious of everything that was kind of coming my way. And I realized quickly that, wow, majority of my audience is realtors. This is now becoming, a niche down real estate podcast. So let me just keep rolling with that. In the beginning, I didn't know. I'm like, am I going to reach out to potential clients, clientele, the general public, consumers? But it just started to really hit it off with all the realtors in the industry. And I was getting a ton of messages with, hey man, really love this episode. Thank you so much. I started to get approached on the street. This is when I first started. I'll never forget this. One day, this guy came up to me. He's like, hey, you're Matt, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm a big fan. To me, that's weird.
Yeah.
Number one. And then but I always like, I eat that up. Like, I love that. That's so humbling to me. And then he's like, I was just about to quit. I was just finishing my licensing. I was just about to quit. I lost all hope. And I heard your Price to Sell podcast, and it gave me the motivation. And I just finished my last exam, and I can't wait to start. I'm like, holy man, like, I did that for you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, like that just blew my mind, right? So all those little clues, I just lasered in. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go right after bringing value just to real estate agents. And that's essentially what I did. So I started to restructure my questions a little bit more catered to realtors and the business and industry. And then I'm still learning, right, as I go.
Fascinating answer, because you just shared something that, I mean, I've paid to learn in courses from like top YouTubers is audience first. You weren't scared. You just press record and you started, which is paralyzes 90% of people. Like, just press record and start and you'll figure it out. But within like a very short period of time, you started auditing, like, who am I actually talking to? Because we run 2 YouTube channels. I have Prime Real Estate Brokerage, which is consumer facing. So if you want frameworks for videos, go there. But my personal channel is Real Estate Agents and Entrepreneurs. And like, that sat at 42 subscribers for, I think, 7 years, and was like random content, me, kettlebells, traveling, photography, whatever. And then when I realized, like, I'm talking to you, I started putting effort into it. And all of a sudden we've grown consistently like 90% month on month since I realized who I was talking to. So that's an interesting piece. But you seem like a tactical guy. We've talked about SOPs, the dynamics of looking at the military and implementing structure for business. Like, are you actually like looking at the numbers and the metrics of your podcast for the audience? Are you sending them messages to audit them? Like, how are you discovering who the audience is and what questions they have?
So that's where neighborhood comes in. We have a full team behind it all, and they are very well versed with analytics and what's working and what doesn't work because of the experience with their podcast. So I have the benefit of having them on board as very strategic partners. I'm not a numbers guy at all. I'm really not. I'm not an analytical mind. I'm very creative. I know how to create. I come up with amazing ideas. I know how to have conversation. I know how to let things just flow and attract. But for me, so yeah, we look at our downloads. We look at all those things. It's more of just like a pump up that we celebrate more than anything. Like, hey guys, we got 500 downloads this week. Let's go. Hurrah! Fire emojis. But
in like a group chat, like you guys are actually in a group chat together. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And but for me, it's more so just all the direct responses I get. I get phone calls,
DMs. Yeah, legit.
People on the streets, a lot more common now. I call listing agents. Hey, I want to talk about your listing. Oh my God, is this Matt from Price to Sell? Like, okay, let's go. So it's been that's kind of like where I feed off of, and like what I really pay attention to, and I kind of bring the real-time feedback into the group, and that's, I guess, my strength and what I'm able to share, and kind of either pivot if we need to, or stay in line if it's working. And then those guys are good with the numbers and the back end game planning, all that.
Is it working?
It's working good.
Yeah, feel good about it. Yeah, the reason I asked that question though, that's an important question is, you feel like it's growing on the trajectory that you want it to grow on, right? Like, you're seeing those indicators both on the art and the math side, right? You're getting the DMs and the conversations, and maybe not every person that's telling you, I saw you on the show, is liking it and commenting, but you're seeing both of those. And I think that's an important conversation in this world, is people sometimes get stuck on the vanity metrics and the math, and they try and game the system, but they lose that art piece. But you're surrounding yourself with excellent people. I think that's awesome. We got a couple questions in the chat. Olivier from Montreal, he's a killer, actually, commercial real estate agent. If you ever need a good commercial real estate agent, he is dynamic. He's in Montreal. I know him personally. And the podcast is the Price to Sell podcast. Olivier, producer Eric, can you drop the link? Go find Price to Sell on YouTube and drop the link in the chat on YouTube for Olivier. I see Matt from Atlanta GA in the house. What's better than one Matt? Two. That's true. What's up? Yeah, no, Matt's a killer too. And he's found a really cool niche with the high-end luxury market. He drives Porsches, super dialed in Atlanta, so he'd be a good guy to chat with. And then Jason Mitchell, dynamic lender. Thanks for being here as well, Jason. Another question I have for you.
Awesome. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fun. So I'm an open book. We run this on StreamYard. StreamYard allows me to go live. So I'm on my Facebook, I'm on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Practical and Tactical, my private group. My private group, eScarf, you can also drop the link to the StreamYard in here. we'll do it. And sometimes random people pop into the studio and we can pull them up and interact with you, and they can meet you face to face. I think that's the world today is awesome. And also a note, if you're a Facebook user, you need to allow StreamYard to show your name, because right now it just says, yo, Facebook user. Nice to see you. I have no idea who you are. So
that's my buddy.
Oh, is it? Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Facebook, his last name user.
Well, Matt knows Facebook, which leads to my next segue. Matt seems to get some of the best guests on the planet. Matt, how do you get some of the best guests on the planet? Like, where did you even start to get these people?
Well, I mean, it all started when I got this guy Justin Konikow.
Yeah. There were some good ones before me.
I think it started to blast off from there. You believe it or not, I've done some personal reach out. I haven't really done like the cold DMs, like, okay, Ryan Serhan I have, but that's about it. Honestly, I already had a pretty good established network. We had a good relationship with many agents in the business, especially in our immediate circle and GTA and surrounding parts. And Instagram, I'd say Instagram has been the biggest tool for me in terms of networking and connecting. And I've built some crazy relationships with a lot of these agents before actually meeting them on the podcast, because my podcast is all in person. So a lot of the times, like for you, for example, we've chatted a little bit here and there, and then you come on and we hit it off and you in person. But a lot of these guys, like you and girls, I feel like I've known them forever, just because of Instagram, just because of the constant interactions, the dropping comments, the support. So I think,
well, literally, that's why I asked you that question, is when you asked me to do the podcast, you had been supporting my content for like 3 to 6 months. And I noticed that, right? Like we talked earlier about how not every person likes or comments. Engagement is it's like maybe 10% of your overall audience if you're lucky. So like I value it because I don't ask for much. I give my content away for free, but I recognize your name. I recognize the podcast. And I do the same thing. Like I try and be strategic where if like I want to get around certain friends and developers that I do want to build a relationship with, I don't expect anything from them. I try and show up in their ecosystem, and then maybe there's a way for us to collaborate. So is that a thoughtful tactic or just organic to kind of who you are? Organic
to me. I've always been the shy kid, to be honest. Like me sending that cold DM, still to this day, there's resistance, I've always suffered from being a little more introverted. You wouldn't think that way, but
same. I'm the most extroverted introvert you'll ever meet, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, as I get these positive responses, again, it's just like that whole confidence thing that just comes with it. Just now, okay, you know what? We're growing. Podcast has a name to it now, has some value.
Well, where'd the name come from? Because that was one of my questions.
I got to shout out Anthony from Neighborhood. He is the brand genius. Like that guy with coming up with names and like things like that. He's like, Matt, we're gonna price this out. I was like, wow, done. Let's do it. So
it's very interesting because like it instantly gets our attention because we're in the business of like, did you price it to sell or did you not? But it translates into your personality. And I think your personality is kind of part and parcel of the brand at this point. Your preparation for shows though, because I mean, you get on, actually first, before we get to how you prep for shows, your guests, I talked about how you've had some awesome people on, and shout out to so many of them that like I have learned about because of your podcast, and now I'm following them and probably some collaborations in there. Who are some shout outs that you want to give that maybe you learned some big lessons from? So you can give some shout outs and maybe some lessons that you've learned from your guests.
First off, Jazz, that guy's been, he's been amazing. I didn't like, it's funny. Ernesto and I will both source guests. He sourced Jazz.
Did he really? Okay.
And I learned all about Jazz that day, and he blew me away. And we continued the conversation. I ended up in his office. The guy gave me so much information that people would pay a lot of money for.
Yep.
Just as a thank you to having him on, and I sent him and Laura to a Raptors game. Just from my point of gratitude. Jazz has been awesome. That guy's a wizard. You were great. Not just because we're talking right now.
I paid you. I'll send you the check when we're done the episode.
Is it on the way?
Yeah, it's coming. It's Bitcoin, so it'll go up. It's not much now, but it'll go up eventually.
So I want Doji, but you're awesome. You're just dropping nuggets. I learned so much from you, and that's the thing. Like a lot of the time, I'm sitting there, I'm asking questions, but I am just soaking in the knowledge myself because I'm like, okay, I'm in a position right now to learn. Like this is all free, So, that's been good. Mark Salerno, he's an absolute
G. And he's authentic and he's humble. Where a lot of people just see the baller properties he sells and they think that he wouldn't be, right?
We're from the same area, right? Like I've known him when I first started in the business, like, personally. He is a Vaughn boy, just like me. And Mark kills it. He is, as much as he's blown up and like, people may want to hate because naturally that's people do, but that guy is absolutely crushing it, deserves everything that he's getting. And I was his first podcast, really. So I'm happy I was able to give him that voice. I feel like a lot of people learned a lot different side about him just from being on my show. So that's been good. Human from the agency.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Human was cool. That guy, he's cool. Human is a great guy. So he was an awesome guy too. I mean, the agency, shout out to what they're doing too. Really cool brokerage, really cool setup. So just to name a few. I mean, it's been good. I've been blessed with the guests.
So Salerno was a month ago?
I think so.
I got to break your bubble. I have to break your bubble. I'm so sorry to do this to you right now, but I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Salerno was on Prime People a year ago.
Oh, no way.
He was. Yeah. And it's interesting. There he is. But your podcast is getting bigger than mine. So I think you're all right. But Salerno, I was sharing that for a specific reason.
Yeah.
Because I need to highlight something.
Yes.
You're talking about, and I saw this in you, which is why I gave so much on your podcast. You were present in the interview, right? We're going to talk about how you prepare for your show. How do you maybe come up with questions for your guests? And maybe I'm right. Maybe the answer is you don't, and you let the conversation go where it goes because it kind of got that vibe with you, but you're present. You want to know a real secret? I got as much from telling you all of those things as you maybe got hearing them, because it helps me codify ideas on like, what is the structure of my company? How are we moving in this business? And it's made me since then think and change things about that conversation. And if we did another episode in a year, you're going to get Justin 3.0 and I'm going to talk to Matt 3.0. And that's how we get better, right? Is you get good people like you to ask you questions and you're humble enough to look at yourself. But the prep piece, like, I do feel like you're very, very orientated and going where the conversation goes. Like, do you prep questions? Do you do research on the guests? How do you prepare for the actual show?
Like, to be completely truthful and transparent, it's just a quick kind of, I get what I need and I'm good to go. Like, I don't.
What do you need? Like, what are those exact things that you need to prep for a show?
I need to have that conversation. I need to hear straight from the horse's mouth who Justin is. Here's kind of the angle I take is more that not so much like we're gonna focus on like a certain topic. I'm like, why? Like, who is Justin? We're all different in our own way. We all kill our business because we're ourselves. We're authentic. People like us and use us because of who we are as people, and we all show up differently in the business, right? So a big part of my prep is having that conversation with you. Like, when I call you, I ask certain questions. I see the angle we can take it. And then from there, I dig into some more details and some research in the back end. And then I just flow with it, just super organic. I have some talking points on my phone just to kind of guide the conversation. But if it's going to go somewhere and it's good, I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to keep it going.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll definitely, I guess that I used to have a barber business before real estate. I was a barber.
That's right. You did.
Yeah. And I mean,
the barbershop is like the original podcast, right?
Exactly. And people used to bring that up to me before podcasts were even a thing, but it's because the conversations we would have. But that barbershop talk, I have to keep conversation going. I have to know how to what I can dig into more from that person, because a lot of these guys that sat in my chair, I don't know who they are. They're actually very introverted, shy, and I gotta get something out of them. I gotta get a conversation flowing with them. So I gotta find different interests and things. I had to know all the sports, know all the TV shows, know all the movies, just to keep conversations going and find common interests. And I take a lot of those took a lot of those skills with me, and it's kind of showing up now in this. So,
dude, imagine what we did earlier on in our lives, how it translates to who we are today, right? We jammed on the fact that I was in hospitality, you were in that world as well too, and some of the people we just mentioned, like Kirk, I knew from back in the Cools and Jim Bob's days, and now he's working with the Nelk boys. You're doing your thing in Toronto. You have the linked price to sell. The synergy of the long-lasting relationships and how that carries into your life today is unbelievable. So I guess what lessons did you have from when you were coming up that you think are building blocks to who you are today?
Just being able to walk into any room and hold it down. A lot of like,
you need to brand your merchandise. Campanelli holds it down or something, a hashtag or something.
We hold it down.
Yeah.
I got into self-development at a young age. I got into, like being high vibrational and operating on a certain frequency. And I like to walk into rooms and just light it up. Like I like to prep myself in the morning, so I'm in like this high vibe state, and I just go out into the day and just whoever needs energy, take it from me, Mm-hmm. And I was doing that while I was barbering, and I was practicing it and just seeing like, how can I change this person's mood? How can I bring their energy up with my energy? Things like that. And I'm just blessed to have the capability of just walking into any room with any demographic and just like holding it down, get any conversation going and keep it going. Like a lot of my friends, when we go out, they're like, we're happy we have you around because you can literally just hold down conversation. Things will never get awkward. We can leave you wherever, and we know you're good. Majority of the time, I'm actually vanished because I end up just like vibing with someone new, and when we're talking, and I'm always just like gone because I'm just meeting new people, and that's just me. I'm just a chattermouth. It's like,
well, we were talking about being an extroverted introvert, and I think this is a great lesson a lot of people struggle with. So I'm going to give you a situation, and I want you to explain how you'd handle it. And this is completely off topic for everybody. So this is how these conversations happen.
Yeah.
But I think it's valuable because, say Matt gets dropped in a room, right? You're going to a Sirhan event. Sirhan's there. You want to get him on your podcast. Maybe we'll make that happen. We'll talk after the episode. But you don't know anybody there. You didn't come with any friends. And everybody's been at these networking events where, maybe they have to like lean into alcohol or something to loosen up their inhibitions. They don't know anybody. They want to be involved in a conversation, but they don't know how to approach these people. How does somebody like yourself enter a situation like that and make themselves feel comfortable and get rid of that anxiety that a lot of people face?
Things I like to look for, like similarities with someone. Like, I dress a certain way. There might be another male dressed similarly. Similar suit on, maybe similar hair. I'll find something where something a common that I could just walk in and be like, hey man, nice shoes. Like,
age, demographic, swagger, like you see, you can sense it.
Oh, you got those from here, right? Like, just like start a conversation with, I'll find something that I can relate to and just chime in. And then from there, they might be with two other guys, and now I'm talking to three. And then maybe some females involved, talk to them too. Just, I'm very comfortable doing that. And I'm confident that I know I'll be able to just essentially approach a situation and just hold it down. So, but that's a big one for me, just kind of finding something that I can relate to, use that as an icebreaker, and then, or jokes. I like to be, I have a weird dry humor and a sarcasm, and sometimes it's very in the moment. It's hard to just come up with an example on the fly, but I'll just crack a joke. If they get it, I'm in. Like, I'm in. If they don't get it, it's fine.
And you kind of approach the podcast the same way. Like, you cracked a joke with me, I think, even before we started. And we had DM and we talked a little bit. There was no context to our relationship, right? So it's interesting to hear you kind of walk through that. Have you always been like that? Just able to walk up to a group of people and talk to them? Yeah,
I mean, again, like I'm known for just saying just the stupid, funny humor. Like, people who know me well just will never put it past me. Like, oh, here goes Matt again. Like, of course, like that's such a Matt thing to say. I wasn't always like that. Like, I was always I played hockey my whole life. I was always a shy kid, never said a word in the locker room. But I built that through the barbering and through certain life experiences. And again, for me personally, everyone's different, but for me, it was a confidence thing. And building up that confidence is what has led me to now being the person I am today, and allowing myself to get into these situations, opening up doors. It all stems from building up that confidence. And now I don't care. Like, I will walk up to anybody. I will walk into any situation. Like, I'm totally cool with it. I feel like, so many opportunities I can come out of. There's always something to learn from someone.
Yeah. And they're all just people at the end of the day. Like, again, you're demystifying the, oh my gosh, these people are untouchable. Ryan and everybody else, they're far more reachable than you would think.
Yeah. And one thing I've heard, again, I forget where, but at the end of the day, we're all the same bone structure, blood network, brain capacity, human beings, right? What makes Bill Gates different than Justin. What makes me different than Elon Musk? He might be an alien.
Yeah, he might be.
He might be the only exception. Other than that, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, well, if anybody's watching this, I think that's a great way to get inspired. A lot of agents, I'm going to start a podcast when the amount of people that I've talked to in interviews at, in the brokerage world or agents saying, I'm going to start a podcast on this. Like, what's stopping you? Like,
yeah,
it's literally free to do. Now, with the base that you have, you've got the guests, you dialed in your audience, you know who you're talking to. You're like, all right, I can do this. It's codifying itself. How long have you been doing it? Like, how long has the podcast been running?
We just hit a year.
Amazing. Now, do you do 52 episodes, like one episode a week, or what's your actual cadence for the episode?
One episode a week every Tuesday. Mm-hmm. We're contemplating maybe 2 now, doubling it up. But as of right now, it's 1 a week every Tuesday. We did take a break for a bit. We did a season. So we're on season 2 right now. Just to kind of
take a break.
We took a step back, not even break, but we just took a step back and just had a sit down and just looked at everything. Okay, like how are we gonna, take this? How are we gonna sharpen this and get it to grow quicker? So that's kind of where we, got the minds together to see what the best way to move forward would be. And we might do that again, not sure, but as of right now, we're once a week.
Well, I'm sure when they come back from signing the deal in LA, they may be like, okay, we learned a whole bunch of new things, so we're changing everything, right? Like, it's levels to this game, and that's the cool thing is you guys have already hit a pretty cool level. But with that cadence, right? Like, you got to go on vacation, you got to live your life. Like, how many episodes do you pre-record, or how many do you have in the chamber? So that if you can't, do you record every week, or do you batch record them? What's the recording process?
We're launching 1 a week, but I'm recording at least 2 to 3 a week.
Interesting.
So we have a lot in the pipeline. So I could chill right now and stop recording, and we'd still be launching episodes every week. So that was, and again, comes from experience of them being podcasters, me doing a small one prior. We understood the importance of filling up the pipeline first before launching and having everything ready to go. So we didn't miss a beat. We weren't late on posting. Every Tuesday at 12.
Everything, right? You depend on it. Like, your audience, it's like you guys are the new TV show. Back in the day, I'd be like 7 o'clock, Seinfeld's coming on. Like 7 o'clock, Seinfeld's coming on. Now it's, now Tuesday, 12 o'clock, Matt's show's coming on. Price to sell, price to sell, price to sell. That there is a lot of value in that. Did they educate you on that when they were explaining about kind of rolling the show out?
Yeah, we went over all that. They were doing the podcast essentially full time at the time. So they were really lasered in on how the whole podcasting space worked and what worked, what didn't work. So yeah, they knew exactly what to do. I followed their lead, right? Like, for me, I show up, I help source guests, I do my thing, I leave. The rest is kind of a collective team-based effort, and it's nice.
Well, that's the slickest thing ever that you do, right? Like, there's so much value. I mean, you said this to me on site. You walk in, you sit down, you talk, you leave. Like, you don't have to do anything else. And I'm actually trying to take cues from you, because I've been too involved, because I used to do it by myself. I was everything. I was the entire production company, and I don't even pre-record as many as you do, right? And I'm trying to get better. I have Ram Castillo coming up. He did design work for McDonald's, Audi, Xbox, Louis Vuitton, like absolute killer from Australia. That's coming down the pipeline. Mary Juliet from TikTok. She's a killer in Miami. These are episodes that I'm going to try and batch and pre-record, because I want the audience to just understand what you just said, that being prepared gives you this freedom to just flow, and batching the actual shooting. So walking into the studio, you're in that state of mind. You're ready to rock. When you sit down and you batch record, is it 2 or 3 or 4 guests? Is it 1 hour at a time, 50-minute breaks? Like, what do you do to manage that? Because that's a big energy drain, I'm sure, for you.
I've had experience doing 2 guests in a day. I've had experience doing 3 guests with my other podcasting, with my other one, and same with Neighborhood. And their Money Buys Happiness. They've had the same experience. Yeah. Well decided. It's best that we just do 1. So 1 a day. Whenever days we do it, do 2 or 3 a week. But it is a lot of energy, and I need to perform. It's like anything. I don't want to be half-assed, because I'm drained from a podcast just the hour before. I'm not going to show up the same. Sure. So it's quality at the end of the day, right? And the way I show up is the quality of the podcast. I'm the host. I'm the energy. Like, the way you started this, I was like blown away. I'm like, dude, like, this is like, you were like high energy. Like, your intro was amazing. And for me to do multiple and just be a little drained, I feel like people will feel that. They'll sense it. It'll affect the flow. It'll affect the vibe. But my guests will sense it in the moment. So definitely.
You're dehydrated. Your shirt's a little wrinkly. The hair's out of place. Right? By the time you get to 3 or 4, it's legit.
Both times I've experienced you, I haven't had a haircut. Today, I'm getting mine after. When I had you on for my podcast, no haircut. Usually I'm like really fresh all the time. That's the barber in me, but
yeah. It was meant to be. Let's get you on. Every time you need a haircut, you come on my podcast first, and then we'll do something after that. It's funny you say that, but you're also self-reflective, right? I know you've done a lot of personal development. You're okay to look at yourself in the mirror and see what you need to work on. And I think that's what makes your path so interesting to watch, is that constant search for knowledge. I do think you're going to continue to grow at a rapid pace, and we're here to support you through and through. And I've got some people I want to connect you with. I got a couple questions to ask you after, but definitely want to help you. A couple things that I'd love to just know, and I know you're not managing the analytics, and this probably falls under the neighborhood creative strategy piece, but I'm pretty sure you're aware of how they do the strategy piece. But your pre-show and post-show, what do you do for increased viewership? Do you guys do anything pre-show to set it up so that when you launch, or you just publish and go? And then post-show, are you sending like mini clips and links back to the podcast? Like, what is your pre-show, post-show routine to increase your viewership?
That's a good question. That's definitely in their wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. I'm not too sure. We do have, so like, for example, on YouTube, I know we're big on the shorts. We're big on whatever. They're really tuned in with algorithms. Mm-hmm. And on Instagram and on TikTok and on YouTube. So literally I'll get notifications of a new TikTok being posted. Like, oh, Price to Sell's on TikTok now. I didn't even know that. That's all them. So they're very ahead of the game.
And you're tagging, sharing, commenting, engaging, reposting. And that's kind of what I was getting at too, right? Like, I do think the way that you've partnered with these guys is a lesson people should learn.
So yes, they are some of the most engaging individuals on Instagram that I know from a personal perspective, with their own personal accounts. Every single one of my pictures has a comment from both of them, from all the businesses they run. Okay, because they run multiple accounts as their agency. They run social media accounts for restaurants, for other style businesses. If you look at just Matt Campoli's pictures and look at my comments, a lot of the comments consistently, every single photo, and I don't ask them to do this, is from them and all their accounts. And they're engaging using all the accounts that they run, because they created this whole community, and they're just engaging everyone with their own accounts. And I learned a lot from them with that. So I make it a point as best as I can when I have time just to go on support, because that is good for the algorithm. For Price to Sell, our guy Joshua, who runs that account, he's commenting, replying to comments instantly. It's
everything. I see it, right? Like, it's funny because I know it may not necessarily always be you. Sometimes it would be, but it's still your voice, right? And that's the interesting thing, is they understand your voice, which is so critical when you're working with a company like this.
Yeah, and I'll tell them, like, guys, I don't say words like, like we'll chat, we'll joke around, but like, they've replicated what I do, and it's just been growing. Like, even our following base has just been like organically just growing, and I can only really cater that to the content that they're pumping out, the consistency, the amount of engagement that they're doing, and that's pretty much it. Just like, it's the simple, consistent work that needs to go in to that end of the game, which will help you grow, right?
Well, that leads to my next question. Like, what's the end game for the podcast? Do you want to be Matt Rogan, or what's the end game here?
Matt Rogan would be great. I'm actually already submitted an application for name change.
Nice.
But so I can announce it here potentially. We're starting a little sub brand called Field Trips by Price to Sell.
Okay.
So I'm going to be traveling to interview agents in their listings, luxury listings.
Super smart.
Yeah, and we're going to bring so Field Trips is going to be the whole video tour side of things. It's going to be me touring, promoting, and then I'm going to do a quick little sit down chat with that agent in the house. Price to Sell.
What's interesting you say that, because I never, like, the reason I don't do as many in-person podcasts is I'm in London, Ontario. Like, for you to drive to come here to do it's different. When I came to see you, a million connections in Toronto. Like, I did 5 different things when I was there. I've always kind of been thoughtful about that piece. But when you're ready to do one, I'll pick a baller listing. I'll get you guys in to shoot that podcast. We'll shoot another episode of Prime People, and then I'll keep that one in the chamber for a future episode. So we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone one day. Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Yeah, I like that concept a lot. And the cool thing too, you need connections in different cities. Use my database. Hit me up and say, hey, who would you talk to in this city? Mary Juliet kills it on TikTok. I'm doing her in a couple weeks. And yeah.
Okay, I'm doing 2 in Miami. One's already booked in. I need another one. So
she runs an insane outfit. So she built it from nothing. Investor does Airbnbs, but the TikTok piece is really where she blew up recently. So anyways, good collaboration for you there. So I'm going to ask you rapid fire round questions, get you out of here. And first question, what is the greatest lesson you've learned up to this point?
Generally,
could be anything.
Just be yourself. Don't be scared to be yourself. Put yourself out there, and you're going to attract everyone that you want in your life. And that's it.
You're going to dequalify the people you don't as well, which is fantastic.
That's it.
Yeah. What are you learning right now? A lot of entrepreneurs know their base, what's kind of making the money, but they're 20% they're curious about, might be scary new. What are you learning right now that's new?
Building out my own business. So what I've learned from this podcast, having this well-oiled machine, is like, well, I can do that in my own business. So I started a small team now. I have my personal assistant, full force. I've learned things from guys like yourself and Jazz, and I'm working on building. I'm building out the structure so I can make more space for my own self, and allows me to do the things that I really enjoy, like these, and put myself out there and be the face, and that's kind of what I'm building the foundation right now.
Yeah, you can spend more time to think. I think that'll be very, very helpful, right? It's just
clearing up some space.
Yeah, that's everything. The next question: how has failure shaped your life?
Oh, it's been great. All the kind of any sort of resistance I've ever faced in life, majority of it when I was a kid, has really shaped who I am today. And I invite all failure in, right? Like, I'm not scared of it. That's why I'm totally cool just jumping into things right off the bat. There's a law called the law of adaptation, which I'm very big on. And essentially what that is if you try and plan too much for something, you'll never get it done. Instead, just do it and you'll adapt, because that's who we are as humans. That's our nature, and we're just going to adapt into it. If you're trying to plan for something for too long, things are always going to come in between. There's going to be a roadblock. There's going to be a curveball, and then you're never going to actually get to that plan, that idea, and execute. Just do it and adapt along the way. So
you'll find a million reasons not to do something. Like Jazz likes to say, ready, fire, aim, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Last, the most important question, because you made time for us. My platform is yours. Any ask? Is there anything that I can do for you, or anything you'd like to ask of my audience?
No. I just more or less just thankful and grateful to be on here. It's a pleasure. What you're doing is awesome. Everything you do is awesome. You're a big inspiration for myself. So to be sitting here on the other side with you.
This does not work. You have to ask for something, like subscriptions to the Price to Sell podcast. Try to get Ryan on your podcast. Ask me for something, please. You have to.
All right. We're going to get Ryan Serhant on the podcast. I'm going to go to New York, one of his penthouses. I'm going to do a trip there.
Yes.
With him in the penthouse, and we're going to sit down and do a video tour and market his penthouse.
Send me a text with that.
Okay.
Then I will literally email him and Kyle Scott right now. I'll put in a good word for you, and wherever you take it from there, just don't forget me when you blow up and you're super famous. Okay.
You can come with.
All right. I'll be there. If I can, I will. That'd be awesome. All right, brother. Appreciate having you on the podcast. Yeah. Looking forward to all your ventures in the future. Everybody, please go and subscribe to the Neighborhood Creative Price to Sell podcast. Follow Price to Sell and Matt Campoli on Instagram. And please, please, please like and give them feedback on their videos. They put out tons of content for free, and all you have to do to show them a little bit of love is engage. And if you listen to his podcast on Apple, please give it a 5-star review, and we'll see you on the next episode, Matt.
Thank you again, man. You're fantastic. This is awesome. And I look forward to all of our future ventures. And anyone out there, reach out. I'm always here to answer any questions.
Awesome. Appreciate you so much, brother. Take care.
Well, thanks, man.
All right. Bye.